What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugi, and happy Monday to all of you. It is March. The madness is starting real soon, not just with basketball, but also with NFL free agency, as the new league year is 9 days away. And yes, we have big Chiefs news to discuss today, as the Chiefs are under the salary cap for the first time this offseason. And it also does pose some questions about the future for the offensive line, specifically at right tackle with Jawaan Taylor cut, and what the Chiefs are going to do with that right tackle position and how that impacts what they'll do in free agency as well as the draft. Who is the potential replacement for Jawaan Taylor as the week one right tackle for 2026 for Kansas City? We'll discuss that. I think there are more candidates than I think some might realize. There are two obvious ones in Jalen Moore and Esapole. There might be a couple of players out there who are currently not a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, at least not yet, but they could very well be the starting right tackle for the Chiefs in week one. We'll discuss that. Also, Mike Pennel is potentially facing a legal issue. I'll talk about that and why that could impact him no longer coming back to Kansas City. Appreciate you all joining me for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast on a Monday. Want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. The NBA, NHL seasons slowly coming down to an end. Their playoffs will be starting up real soon. College basketball, March Madness coming up real soon. Before that will be the Big 12 tournament right here in Kansas City. If you guys want to catch any of the action, don't forget Royals baseball as well at the end of the month. Go to my friends at SeatGeek. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, enter my promo code Farzin. That'll save you $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets at checkout. Use my promo code Farzin. That'll save you $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. All right. Welcome in, guys. Appreciate you guys joining me on this Monday night. A lot of things to get into here. And I do want to interact with you guys. And I'm going to open up the phone lines a little later on here. I say phone lines, but you guys know what I mean. Because I think there could be some interesting interactions we could have today regarding the right tackle position. First and foremost, let's get into the news that broke roughly around 7 a.m. this morning Central Time, when multiple reports came out that Jawaan Taylor had been informed by the Chiefs that the team is moving on from him. Now, I think there was some speculation last week because Brett Veach said something to the effect of how Jawaan Taylor and Drew Tranquill could still be back. And I think people took that as, oh, that means they're coming back. Listen, Brett Veach, and I said this last week, Brett Veach gave his press conference last week. That might have been the least informative press conference, which I have no problem with whatsoever. I mean, as a Chiefs content creator and a podcaster, that's not a lot of fun. But in terms of Brett Veach not wanting to reveal too much, I'm totally okay with that. He didn't say a whole lot in that press conference. Yeah, he mentioned Trent McDuffie, how he would like to have him long term, and people assumed that meant a contract extension was coming up real soon. I mean, those were very basic PR answers that he gave there. Now, Ian Rappaport, he posted today on his social media that Jawaan Taylor is gone. He is released. He's cut. He's no longer a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Whereas Adam Schefter had a slightly different report on this. Schefter's report is that the Chiefs have informed Taylor he's cut unless they can find a trade partner before free agency begins. Otherwise, they're going to cut him right before the new league year gets underway. So I don't believe it's been official on the transaction wire. But here's as far as I'm concerned, Jawaan Taylor's released. He's most certainly done. The Chiefs are ready to move on from him. But I think at the end of the day, who's going to take Jawaan Taylor for that contract. And listen, just to recap Jawaan Taylor's time, and I'll do this very quickly because we have other things to address on tonight's podcast. I know a lot of people make a big deal about, and this came up today quite a bit, about how Chris Collinsworth ruined Jawaan Taylor's career. I don't disagree. I don't really disagree. Look, was he getting picked on in 2023? Yes. Because so here's, take it from my vantage point. So I was at that game between the Chiefs and the Lions for the season opener, and my Wi-Fi was not working for a majority of that game. Listen, there are certain spots at Arrowhead where the Wi-Fi is just very spiffy and not good at all. So all of the reactions to Jawaan Taylor and his whole movement, pre-snap movement, I was oblivious to all of that. And look, there's a reason why I enjoy the home viewing experience way more than being there in person, because there are a lot of things you see on TV that you don't get to see in person. And listen, there are some things you get to see in person, don't get me wrong. But because I didn't have access to Twitter or anything, the whole complaints about Jawaan Taylor, I had absolutely no idea that was a thing that night. So I go to my car, I open up Twitter while I'm in that crazy Arrowhead traffic. That was really my first indication that, Jawaan Taylor just, people took issue with it, specifically Chris Collinsworth. Then I went home and watched the game, and that's when I first noticed. Here's my thing with that. I was sitting behind Detroit's sideline. None of their coaches were shouting at the refs for that kind of thing. Whenever coaches see something egregious like that, they let the refs know about it. That never occurred with Dan Campbell or any of the assistants that night. And then I went back and watched Jawaan Taylor in the preseason. The way he moved with his pre-snap, I mean, no one had an issue with it. I went back and watched some of his film with Jacksonville in 2022, right before joining the Chiefs. He did the exact same thing in his time there. I watched that 2022 playoff game against Kansas City, the one where Mahomes got his ankle injured and came back into the game later. Jawaan Taylor did the same thing in that game, and no one said a peep. So what was it about that night specifically? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I remember a couple of weeks after that Detroit game, against the Bears, the Taylor Swift debut, as I like to refer it, they took Jawaan Taylor out of the game when it was a blowout win for the Chiefs. And I cannot remember the name of the backup. I'll look it up real quickly. But they had a backup right tackle go in there. They told him, do the exact same thing as Jawaan Taylor. And he did. And he did not get penalized, nothing for it. He had like a hyphen in his name. It wasn't Lucas Niang. It was certainly not Wanye Morris. If I... why am I not seeing his name on the Our Lads depth chart? This was 2023. Let's go 1 month before, see if that name will come up. Prince Tego Wanagu. See, I knew there was like not a hyphen, but he had like, his first name was broken into two, if you will. PTW is what they called him. They told PTW to go in there, and they told him to do the exact same thing, and he didn't get penalized for it. So look, as far as Jawaan Taylor's time in Kansas City, was he picked on? Yes, but he was explained the rules and what he needed to do, and he never adjusted to it. You got to adjust. Here's the thing, and I'll say this about Jawaan Taylor. His pass blocking in 2025 was actually not bad. I want to say it was great, but he had a better pass blocking rate than he did the year before. The problem with Jawaan Taylor, not the volume of penalties, that's one issue, but a whole nother separate issue is the timing of his penalties. Not that there's ever a good time or an okay time to commit a penalty, but he just had so many drive impacting penalties. The Chiefs would convert on second and medium or third and short. Then those penalties turned into third and long, second and long, and that just put the Chiefs in a really bad predicament. That's why Jawaan Taylor is no longer with the Chiefs. And I think it comes to a point where, one, he was not doing Patrick Mahomes any favors. Two, wasn't doing the offense any favors. And three, not doing the team any favors. So you just have to cut ties with him. And with the $20 million that you're going to save from this, I think it's what, $9 million dead cap. Yeah, it was time to move on. They already restructured his deal once before. You can't really restructure it when you have 1 year left unless you extend it. But I don't think he's looking to take less money. I mean, listen, Jawaan Taylor, for being average, yes, he had a couple of great games with his pass blocking, but overall body of work, he was average. And I know people want to bring up the pass blocking and how good it was last year. I don't agree that it was good. Some people make it sound like it was great, and it wasn't. But even if it was good, the plethora of penalties and how poorly timed they were completely overshadows all of that. So I think that's the most important takeaway from all of this. That leads us to our big question of the day. Who is going to be the new right tackle for Kansas City in 2026? Because right now you've got a big hole at that position there. The two obvious candidates are Jalen Moore and Esapole. I'll get to Esapole in a moment. Let's start with Jalen Moore, because Jalen Moore was signed about 11 and a half months ago with the hope that he would be the left tackle and that he learned so well from Trent Williams, and this would be someone that would be really good for the offense and give Patrick Mahomes that reliable left tackle that he needs. Lo and behold, and Brett Veach kind of admitted to this a couple of days after the draft, they did not expect Josh Simmons to fall as far as he did in the draft. So when it comes to Jalen Moore, what did we learn about Jalen Moore? Because we saw Jalen Moore kind of get plugged into different spots. I remember in training camp, he started out as the right tackle because Jawaan Taylor was dealing with an injury at the time. And we also saw Jalen Moore play a little bit of guard in training camp. He was inserted at guard a little bit in, I want to say, one of the regular season games as well. So the Chiefs, plugged them into a couple of different spots. Then we have that weird incident where Josh Simmons unexpectedly had a personal matter on the day of a game, was not available for the team. So Jalen Moore started 4 games at left tackle, and he was good. He was good. Wouldn't say he was great, but overall thought he was good. Then against the Dallas Cowboys, and this is where, things really started to going into the wrong direction for the Chiefs, that Thanksgiving night game. Both Josh Simmons and Jawaan Taylor got injured. Jawaan Taylor got injured first, so the Chiefs put Jalen Moore, who's been their swing tackle. They put Jalen Moore in at right tackle, and in the 34 snaps he played in that Cowboys game, which is not much, he allowed 6 pressures. 6 pressures is a lot in one game. It is severely a lot for playing just 34 snaps. Then the following week against Houston, and keep in mind, Mahomes had Jalen Moore at right tackle and Wanya Morris at left tackle. Wanya Morris got injured on the first snap of the game. Jalen Moore, on the other hand, he got manhandled by Will Anderson Jr. in this game, allowing 8 pressures. Jawaan Taylor did not look very good. Jalen Moore, did not look very good as a right tackle for the Chiefs last year in the 2 games he started, as well as the Cowboys game where he was put in midway through to fill in for Jawaan Taylor. Now, that leads us to Esapole, who, all things considered, given that this guy was an undrafted rookie and barely missed the 53-man roster after the preseason, went to the Jets for a bit, got let go, came back to Kansas City. he did pretty well at left tackle. In fact, that first game he played in his NFL debut against Danielle Hunter, dude, he manhandled Danielle Hunter. And listen, that was not a great game for the Texans, even though they shut out the Chiefs for a very long time in that game. But boy, the people in the Houston media pointed out that one of the very few negatives of that game, in fact, the biggest negative, and the only really bad negative from a Houston standpoint, was the fact that Esapole was just manhandling Danielle Hunter in that game. I mean, Esapole had his way with him. And that was a great start. Listen, I get it. There wasn't a lot of film on Esapole to kind of prepare for him. But to do that against an elite edge rusher in Danielle Hunter, that was pretty damn impressive for his debut. A lot of people talked about that in Kansas City for a couple of days. And I think Esapole overall did a good job at left tackle. He played left tackle in the preseason for the Chiefs, in the regular season, as well as in college at Washington State. I don't believe Esapole has any experience playing right tackle in college or in the NFL. I mean, in the NFL, I can say he certainly hasn't. In college, just doing the research I've done for his time at Washington State, he's always been listed as a left tackle. So I don't know if he played right tackle. It might have been very few snaps, but he's been primarily a left tackle. So we don't know much about Esapole when it comes to his abilities as a right tackle. And I think that is something that needs to be figured out in OTAs whenever that gets underway, as well as training camp when the Chiefs go up to St. Joe. And you'll learn even more in the preseason. So those are the two very obvious options. And by the way, if you guys want to call into the show and give me your thoughts on the Jawaan Taylor exit, on anything regarding the Chiefs' new right tackle, who it could be, I want to hear from you guys. So I just commented with the link for you guys to call in. Would love to hear from you guys. As far as other options that are not in Kansas City, I'll tell you this right now. Generally speaking, when we talk about offensive tackles that get drafted in the first round, they're usually left tackles. There are two very solid options at offensive tackle that are both expected to be first-round draft picks. One is expected to be a top 5 pick. If not top 5, certainly top 10. And they're both right tackles. Let's start with Francis Mauigoa. And by the way, both of these guys, Francis Mauigoa and Spencer Fano, they're both juniors, and they both were 3-year starters in college. Mauigoa, coming from Miami, started all 3 years there, and all 3 years started at right tackle. In 2025, he allowed just 2 sacks. Last year, I have the numbers mixed up. He allowed 1 sack in 2024, 2 sacks in 2025. Apologies for that. 9 hurries allowed last year as a junior, playing over 1,000 snaps. That's pretty good. When you hit the 4-digit marks for total snaps in a college football season, and you only allow 2 sacks, single-digit pressures allowed, that's pretty damn good. And listen, I'll say this. I know Ruben Bain Jr. is popular. His arm length is certainly is a question mark right now. David Bailey, people feel like he's the best edge rusher in this draft class. Some say Ruben Bain Jr., some say David Bailey. I think David Bailey seems to get the nod from the majority of people out there. I think David Bailey's going to be way gone by the time the Chiefs pick. Ruben Bain Jr. has a chance to be available. I know the one player everyone wants, it feels like everyone wants in Kansas City, is Jeremiah Love. Look, I do not think Jeremiah Love's... let me just say this. I've been on the Ruben Bain Jr. train since day one. But I will say this, and we saw what he did at the Combine. Jeremiah Love looked pretty damn good. And in the interviews that he had done with the media, dude, it just sounds like he wants to play for Kansas City. Just the way he answered certain questions when asked about Kansas City, and how it's so close to his home in St. Louis. I remember with Roto World NBC, he mentioned that he wants to play with the best. And in a separate interview, I think with Oh boy, who's that? National. He's also with NBC. Dan Patrick. He was on Dan Patrick's show and was asked what his thoughts were on Mahomes and potentially playing with him. He said Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. He's top one in the NFL, is the way he worded it. So, dude, it just sounds like all of the things you heard out of the combine, the signs point to Jeremiah Love and the Kansas City Chiefs. They make a perfect couple and get married right now. Sounds like it. A lot of people feel like Jeremiah Love is a generational talent at the running back position. And because of that, I don't know if Jeremiah Love is falling to number 9. Dude, I said this last year, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt, all right? I know the draft can be unpredictable sometimes. No mock draft is ever accurate, 100% accurate. But I just don't know if Jeremiah Love is falling to number 9. I would be absolutely stunned if he's there at 9. Look, I'll say this. I said a moment ago, my number one guy is Ruben Bain Jr. But the idea of Jeremiah Love has really grown on me over the last week. And I think it started even before that when Eric Bieniemy came back. I'm not going to go over it in detail because I have a couple of times already, but every running back in Kansas City, whether Bieniemy was a running backs coach or the offensive coordinator, every running back has done real well. Now, when they cut Kareem Hunt the first time, they didn't really have a primary runner. In fact, they have not had a 1,000-yard rusher since Kareem Hunt's rookie season. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher ever since Mahomes became the starting quarterback of the Chiefs. But there's still been running backs that have stepped up and done well. Damian Williams balled out in the playoffs whenever his number was called. Damian Williams held the franchise record for touchdowns scored for a little bit. Travis Kelce has it now, but Williams is second on that list. That's like a really fun, difficult trivia question to try to stump even the most diehard Chiefs fan. Who's second on that list? Not a lot of people will say Damian Williams. I mean, you'll get people assuming Kelsey's first, but no one's really sure who they would pick second. I feel like Otis Taylor would be such a common answer that people would just forget, oh, Damian Williams did do a lot in the postseason for the Chiefs, but neither here nor there. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is, yes, there are some options. If, you want to pray to the football gods and somebody falls at 9. A lot of Chiefs fans are hoping it's Jeremiah Love. I will say this, as much as, I'm slowly getting on the Jeremiah Love train, hoping he falls, which I don't think that'll happen. Hypothetically speaking, if Jeremiah Love and Francis Mauigoa are both available at 9, oh boy. In a perfect world, you could get both of them. Trade McDuffie to the Bengals so you can have back-to-back picks. If the Chiefs take Jeremiah Love at 9, the Bengals should not even let Roger Goodell go backstage. Like, Roger Goodell should stay right there, and Mauigoa would go straight to the Bengals because we know that team needs offensive. I mean, they need defensive help also, but neither here nor there. Boy, if Francis Mauigoa somehow falls to the Chiefs at 9, that is really difficult to say no to. I know 99.9% of Chiefs fans, when you talk about the number 9 pick and what position should they target, it's either edge rusher with David Bailey or Ruben Bain Jr. or running back with Jeremiah Love. No one's really talking about offensive line. There are some Chiefs fans that are talking about the wide receiver position with Jordan Tyson, Cardinal Tate, Micaiah Lemons. He had kind of an interesting press conference that might have turned some people off. But I'm telling you, man, if I expect David Bailey to be top 5, Ruben Bain Jr. could be somewhere between 5 and 9. Or 5 and 8 rather, because, we're talking about who could go before 9. If Jeremiah Love also goes before 9, along with those 2 edge rushers, boy, your options become really slim at that point. But if Francis Mauigoa, if he falls, that would be big for Patrick Mahomes. And look, the case I've made for drafting Jeremiah Love, or why you should draft Jeremiah Love, I'll make that same case for Mauigoa. Not only does Patrick Mahomes need some help on offense, certainly could use that help at right tackle, which Jeremiah Love cannot do, obviously, but Mahomes is coming off an ACL tear injury that took place late in the regular season. Look, I keep saying this, and I will continue to say this. Nobody is questioning his toughness. Patrick Mahomes, that is. But we have to be completely open and honest here. Getting ready for week 1, dude, that is that's going to be very interesting timing. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes will be ready in week 1. I want to say yes, but I also don't want him to rush it. Look, if you got to start your first 2 games without Patrick Mahomes, I know nobody wants to hear that, but if you've got to do it, you got to do it. You don't ever rush an injury back with anybody. You just don't. You absolutely don't. Kimberly says, Nick Wright said today, no way should the Chiefs pick an O-line at number 9. I did see that. Now, I did not watch all of Nick Wright's segment there, but I know what you're referring to, Kimberly. I will say this: I don't want to speak for Nick Wright, but I think he said that with the assumption that Mauigoa is not going to fall to 9, which leads me to Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano played left tackle in 2023. Then he converted to right tackle in 2024 and 2025 during his 3 years at Utah. Only allowed 1 sack in the last 2 years combined. Did not allow a sack last year as a junior, his final year with Utah. Just 5 hurries allowed. First team All-American as a freshman, allowing just 2 sacks. Dude, this guy got off to a really good start. And it went up from there. Now, here's a problem. Do you take Spencer Fano at 9? There were some mock drafts early in the offseason that suggested that. Fano's stock seems to have dipped to where he's not expected to be picked until the second half or the back half of the first round. So let's say in a perfect world, if you're anti-Chiefs, Jeremiah Love, David Bailey, Reuben Bain Jr., and Francis Mauigoa, they're all gone by the time the Chiefs are picking at 9. What do you do if you're Kansas City? Because if you trade back and you really want a guy like Spencer Fano, or maybe you want a wide receiver. Now, this also depends on whether or not the Chiefs are in love with any of those wide receivers I mentioned earlier, Tyson, Tate, Lemons. What do you do then? Because if let's say the target is Spencer Fano, the team that's picking right after you at 10, the Bengals, I just mentioned they could use Mauigoa, certainly could use Fano as well. I could actually see Cincinnati, given how desperate they are to try to keep Joe Burrow healthy, especially with how much they've invested in that offense. Give him an offensive line. They're bringing back former K-Stater Dalton Reisner. I thought he did some good things for them. If they want to add Spencer Fano, yeah, I mean, then you would miss out on that, and that would really put you in a weird predicament. Look, we've always complained that because the Chiefs have consistently been going to AFC championship games and Super Bowls, that they are always picking either 29, 30, 31, 32. They're always picking in the final 4 spots of the first round every year. Well, this year they're picking 9. You were not expecting for that to happen. In the entire Andy Reid era in Kansas City, the Chiefs have never been scheduled to pick in the top 10. The only time they ever picked in the top 10 is because they traded up 17 spots to get Patrick Mahomes. So the Chiefs are in an interesting position where yeah, there are a lot of great players that the Chiefs could be keeping their eye on. But there's a really good chance that those four guys I mentioned, the two edge rushers, Maui Noah and Love, could all be gone at 9. What do you do then? Do you go ahead and draft Fano? Do you go after one of the wide receivers? And maybe there's a scenario where the Chiefs cut ties with Rashee Rice. And I want to be clear, he has not been guilty or convicted of anything. But the Chiefs, here's my thing on Rashee Rice. Because unfortunately, the off the field stuff, and the Chiefs are not, Andy Reid said this does not impact them, or at least for now. But let's be honest, the Chiefs are definitely worried about that and how this could impact their future. I think the Chiefs are in a world right now where they are preparing for life after Rashee Rice because they know he's gotten in some trouble or he has some off the field drama that could seriously impact his availability in the future. It's already led to a 6-game suspension. It could be another suspension while on probation, by the way, with this alleged domestic violence matter. So maybe the Chiefs, if all those four guys I mentioned are gone, maybe there's a wide receiver they really like in Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson. I really hope it's not Mekhi Evans. Brad says, does it concern you? Spags or Andy don't play rookies very much. See, that wasn't even a thing until this past year. The way the Chiefs handled some of the playing time with their young guys, because it wasn't just rookies. I would throw Jaden Hicks in there as well. It was very confusing. So yes, it does concern me. I don't know why that was the case last year. And listen, look at Tyquan Thornton, who also was not a rookie. How do you justify what you did with Tyquan Thornton's playing time? It literally made no sense. He was your most effective. I would even argue he was your best wide receiver last year. He may have not had a 100-yard receiving game. Rashee Rice did. He had that big game against the Colts, which was Kansas City's most recent victory. But dude, like, this guy was consistently making plays for you in the first 3 games before Worthy and Rice came back. And Worthy, listen, I'll cut Worthy a little bit of slack here because he grew a lot as a rookie. Then he played through that shoulder injury, colliding with Kelsey. He played through that injury all year long. And I've said this about Matt Nagy. For whatever reason, under Matt Nagy's offense, we've had a couple of instances where players have collided or almost collided. In fact, I remember there was another play later in the season, Juju and Rice almost collided. And Juju, being the veteran that he is, got the hell out of the way because he realized this is about to become friendly fire. Those are things you just never saw under Eric Bieniemy, which is why I'm really optimistic that the offense alone with Bieniemy's guidance is going to move in a better direction. Do you feel Veach will maybe try to trade up? Stacy's asking. Okay, let's discuss this. And let's be completely realistic here. Let's say you really, really, really want Jeremiah Love or Maui Noah or one of the edge rushers. Look, trading up is going to cost a lot. Trading up into the top 5, oh boy. I don't even want to start thinking about what the asking price is. Let's say the Chiefs want. Let me pull up the draft real quickly. The draft order, that is. Because I want to make sure I have the right teams that we're going to be talking about here. So 1 is the Raiders. They're obviously getting Mendoza. Then you have the Jets at 2, Arizona, Tennessee, Giants. Those are your top 5. Following that, Cleveland at 6, Washington at 7, New Orleans at 8. Let's say 5. Let's say the Giants, okay? Let's just say the Giants. What are you going to have to give up? Obviously your number 9 pick. I think Trent McDuffie has to also be included in that package. And I think you've got to throw in another draft pick on day 3. And the Chiefs do not have many draft picks. They do not have a lot of draft picks for the 2026 draft. Let me see if I can pull up how many picks they have. They have a first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, fourth rounder, 2 fifth rounders. That's it. They traded away their 6th round pick to acquire Josh Uche. That was not worth it. And then they traded their 7th round pick for Peyton Hendershot. Remember Peyton Hendershot? That feels like forever ago. So because the Chiefs traded away 2 day 3 draft picks for players they never used, they don't have a lot of draft capital to begin with. They're already pretty low on draft cap with 6 picks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So, and the reason I pose it this way, the trade proposal with McDuffie, I've been talking about McDuffie possibly being a trade candidate, and so have a lot of other people, but I've mentioned that McDuffie could get you some draft capital. If you're going to move up, you're going to have to include McDuffie in a pretty hefty package that's going to include your number 9 pick as well as a day 3 pick. If the Chiefs can maybe convince the Giants, hey, here's McDuffie, here's a 2nd round pick and a 4th, and we get the number 5 pick, you get to keep your number 9 pick. Again, I'm playing fantasy football here with you. I'm playing Madden. I don't know how realistic that trade would be. But there is a history of the Chiefs, and specifically Brett Veach, not paying quarterbacks a second contract. He just doesn't do that. And on top of that, when I say when there's history with the Chiefs, I'm just specifically referring to the Andy Reid era, and more so with Brett Veach. The other part of it is, too, it's like, you want to be able to keep that number 9 pick. And with McDuffie, if you can find a way to get more draft capital for later rounds, great. If you can get another 1st round draft pick, cool. If you want to move up, like Stacy was asking about, it's got to include McDuffie. And it's got to include either your number 9 pick, or it's got to include your 2nd round pick, which is also fairly high. But you've also got to sweeten the deal with maybe a 4th round pick. Let me ask you guys this. Okay, simple yes or no question. If the Chiefs found a way to keep their number 9 pick, but they trade McDuffie, a 2nd round pick, and a 4th round pick to move up anywhere in the top 5, would you be in favor of that? I would. And I hate to say that because I like McDuffie. I know there are a couple of games where he just wasn't as good this year. The couple of Super Bowls against the Eagles did not do well in either one of them. McDuffie's a great player. And he doesn't get a lot of interceptions because he does a damn good job of covering guys and preventing them from getting the ball thrown in their direction. But again, Brett Veach doesn't pay cornerbacks. Sure, if there was ever a time to pay one, this would be it. But you do have a salary cap issue. And I know the Chiefs will work to try to restructure maybe one more deal and maybe cut one more player, as well as trading McDuffie. But man, if you can trade McDuffie a 2nd and a 4th for a top 5 pick, you could get one of those guys I mentioned, either Bailey, Love, Maui Noah, Bain, whoever you are absolutely in love with. And if one of those other guys fall in the draft, you could maybe get them at 9. And if the players you really want at 9 are not available, then you trade down and you can get some more draft capital that way after giving up some from McDuffie. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you guys like that trade proposal I just gave you? Let's see. We're getting mixed answers here. Mostly no's. Okay, and again, listen, I didn't even come up with this before the show. So I just came up with that one on the spot. But my point is, if you are absolutely in love with Jeremiah Love or any of those other players I mentioned earlier that we've specifically been talking about in detail today and over the last couple of weeks, trading up would require you to include McDuffie in a package. And I hate to say it that way, because McDuffie's done a lot for the team and it makes it sound like he's expendable. But that is the business of the NFL, especially with the cap situation the Chiefs are in. Clark says defense needs more help than the offense right now. We have to fill needs in free agency and don't overpay like we've done in the past. See, I don't disagree with Clark. I do have some concerns about the defense because they lost a couple of key guys last year in Justin Reed and who's the defensive tackle that went to Turk Wharton to Carolina. And this year, you're going to be losing a lot of defensive backs. Now, here's my counter argument to what Clark just said. If Kansas City, if the offense can be much better, guess what? The defense is not going to be, they're not going to be on the field as much as they were forced to be last year. And in the year before that, and the year before that as well. Which is the entire Matt Nagy era as OC, but in a second stint. I just feel like, and listen, we talked about the Houston Texans game. Let's go back to that game. How many yards of total offense did the Texans have? -2 in the third quarter. Just in the third quarter. Could not pick up a first down. That Chiefs defense, they were forced to be out there a lot because the Chiefs offense could not capitalize on anything. And then the Chiefs go for it on 4th and short from their own side of the field, fail to convert, and Houston has an easy path to score. So this Chiefs defense, even though, they lost a couple of guys last year, I still feel like this Chiefs defense, and I agree, they need help. They really need help with their front four. They're not getting a lot of push there, which is why I'm on the Ruben Bain Jr. train. And I think a lot of you guys are as well. But I also will, the counter argument is if you get Jeremiah Love or Francis Maui-Noah, I think that will help your offense a lot because then you can win the time of possession battle. And on top of that, your defense, I think, will get a lot of help. I've always said this. A good offense helps a good defense and vice versa. But I think an offense can help a defense more than a defense can help an offense. So if you're an offense, like, man, this Chiefs defense has certainly, they've overcome a lot of obstacles because the Chiefs defense has been top 10 in total defense and points scored in the last 3 years. And Mahomes, he hasn't had a lot of help. Receivers are dropping passes. The running game isn't very strong right now. The offensive line, it's been up and down over the years. You have to part ways with Joe Thuney, experiment with Kingsley Suamataia, giving him a second chance to change positions. I mean, it's been a rough go for the offense. So this is why, if you want to make last year a long distant memory and quickly go back to how things used to be with Patrick Mahomes, reaching at the very least the AFC Championship, man, you got to make sure you get it right this offseason. If you're going to trade Trent McDuffie, you better get good value out of him. Because here's what I'll say. What did the Chiefs do with Joe Thuney? They traded Joe Thuney. What was Joe Thuney traded for? It was a 4th round pick, a 2026 4th round pick. Boy, they better get that one right because you traded away the guy that won Protector of the Year. And don't give me that, because I saw a couple of people tell me this on Twitter. Don't tell me, oh, well, the Chiefs wanted to get younger. No, I don't care how old Joe Thuney is. If he is blocking like a marauder, you just don't trade a guy like that. Joe Thuney is literally a shield for quarterbacks. He was that way for Tom Brady in New England. He was that way for Patrick Mahomes here in Kansas City. And he's been that way for Caleb Williams so far. That dude is, I mean, he is basically the Great Wall of China. Like, no one can get past Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney, and I get it, the Chiefs were in a cap situation, a cap problem last year, but I think you should have figured out a way to keep Joe Thuney. The way people criticize the Chiefs for trading Tyreek Hill and how you should have figured out a way to pay him, that's my criticism on the Joe Thuney trade. that player you should have never traded. I understood it at the time, but given what we know now, when he just won the Protector of the Year award, that's a bad trade. In fact, the Chiefs have made some questionable personnel decisions lately. Trading for Josh Uche, not using him, letting Mike Pennel go, which we will get into Mike Pennel shortly, letting Mike Pennel go and getting back Derek Noddy. Listen, I like the idea of getting Derek Noddy back for depth purposes, but as a starter, dude, you could have re-signed him in free agency. Like, you let him go to the Jets to what? Pay his sins in August and bring him back in September? Like, that made no sense. Absolutely no sense. Like, Brett Veach, and I'm a big Brett Veach fan, because Brett Veach has done a lot. Remember, I think his first full offseason as a GM, because remember, John Dorsey got fired a week or two after Patrick Mahomes got drafted, because the Chiefs abruptly cut Jeremy Maclin. And that upset a lot of people in Kansas City, specifically with the Chiefs staff and all. That's why Dorsey got fired. But in Brett Veach's first full offseason, that dude had $177 in salary cap space. $177, dude. Especially with how expensive groceries are nowadays, people probably go into a grocery store spending more than $177. So, the way I see it, I mean, Brett Veach, and again, I'm a big Brett Veach fan because he's done a lot of great things. Brett Veach has really got to hit a home run this offseason. And it's not going to be easy. Way easier said than done, especially with your cap restrictions. So, whatever Brett Veach does in free agency, in the draft, whatever you do with Trent McDuffie and trading him, dude, you better make sure every dollar that's spent, any player you trade or any draft pick you trade, if you're going to trade back or trade up, dude, it better be the right move. This is going to be a very important offseason for Kansas City. This upcoming draft needs to be very similar to the one in 2021 or 2022. Because the players you drafted those 2 years have been instrumental in helping you reach the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, winning the first two back-to-back. So it's very pertinent that Brett Veach gets it right this offseason. The Tooney trade isn't bad until we find out how Smith does this year. Smith? Are you referring to Trey Smith? We already know how Trey Smith is doing, though, Joshua. Like, unless you're talking about somebody else. Joe Tooney just won Protector of the Year award. I mean, unless that 2026 fourth round pick that the Chiefs have, like, unless that is used, or did the Chiefs trade that away? I mean, that better be a home run pick. Otherwise, I think that is a big win for Chicago. And I get it, Tooney's up there in age, but you should have gotten much more than a fourth round pick. Let me see if I can see. Kansas City's already traded that selection to New England in exchange for a 2025 third. Oh yeah, because now I remember the Chiefs and the Patriots traded a couple of times in last year's draft. Once in the fourth round or third round, actually, and then again in the seventh round. So that draft pick. Oh, you're who's the seventh round pick from last year? The running back. His name escapes my mind right now. He didn't play much at running back, which I thought was odd. They tried to use him as a pass catcher like Jerick McKinnon. Brashard Smith. Oh, Joshua, you're referring to Brashard Smith. Okay, no, I see your point, but still, Brashard Smith or Joe Tooney, like I'm not really questioning that. The only way that can even be wrong is if Brashard Smith absolutely hits a home run. But there's already talks about, how the Chiefs are in the running back sweepstakes. There's already this speculation with the Chiefs and Jeremiah Love. There's also a report out there that the Chiefs and Travis Etienne Jr. are linked. So, Look, all I'm saying is Brett Veach has not done a very good job with personnel decisions the last couple of years. You got Josh Uche a couple of years ago, mid-season, right around the time when, man, I'm having brain farts tonight. Who was that other defensive end that was recovering from a torn ACL? Charles Omenihu. He came back right around the same time you acquired Uche, and you didn't end up using Uche much, which everyone was excited for Uche and KC. So all I'm saying is Brett Veach needs to be much better with his personal decisions compared to the last year and a half. Can we agree on that? I mean, I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. So I'd like to see that get figured out. No, I really like Noah Williams. Like, I agree. Cook had a good year and a contract year. Teams have to be careful paying him. Yeah, I think it was The Athletic that said that the Chiefs might be, or maybe it was Nate Taylor of ESPN, that Brian Cook might have played his last game with the Chiefs, which is unfortunate because I do think Brian Cook is a very underrated safety, which means if you're the Chiefs, I mean, Jaden Hicks, who I think has really good talent as a safety, you're really hoping that in year 3, and I guess not getting a lot of playing time his first 2 years, you're hoping Jaden Hicks is going to live up to the hype. Because I remember Brett Veach was saying that he got a text from Tyrann Mathieu catching up with him, and how Mathieu compared Jaden Hicks to himself. Brett Veach is the one who revealed that conversation. So that really needs to come to fruition, because you need that desperately right now in your secondary, especially with a lot of the guys that you're losing this year and last year combined. I think the Justin Reed loss. Listen, I don't understand the narrative with Justin Reed with some Chiefs fans. People were so quick to criticize Justin Reed in situations last year. Listen, he wasn't Eric Berry or Tyrann Mathieu, but Justin Reed did a lot of good things for your defense that didn't show up on the stat sheet. Kind of like what Trent McDuffie does, in my opinion. But I think those same Chiefs fans who love to criticize Justin Reed, they really came around with Reed well after the fact he was gone. All I'm saying is, Brett, and I get it. Again, the Chiefs, when you're paying Mahomes, and listen, the Chiefs are not the only one. They're not special here. Other teams are paying big name quarterbacks big money. But when you're in that situation, you got to make sure your cap space is good. Here's the one criticism of the Chiefs. I think they have tried really, really hard to keep the fan favorites, not because they're fan favorites, but because they've been great for them. I mean, whoever they draft and whoever does well, they try to keep, and they give big money to. Like, they've given Harrison Butker the biggest contract in history for a kicker. Same with Creed Humphrey at his position. Same with Trey Smith at his position. Chris Jones at his position. They gave Travis Kelce a pay raise not too long ago. Like, you cannot have the highest paid player at X position at every single position. You're not going to survive that way. You might have a lot of top tier players, but then your second and third tier players won't be as good, and your depth won't be as good either. I think that's the one thing you've got to be cautious with the Chiefs moving forward. They've maybe spent more than they should have with some players, and they've got to figure out, what decisions should be made moving forward. That's all. All right. I want to get into this one here. I don't have any pleasure in discussing this because Lord knows we have had a lot of off the field drama that we have discussed in Kansas City. And listen, these allegations should be taken seriously. Let me be clear. We should not be quick to convict someone, because unless you were there, unless you have evidence, which none of us do. Unfortunately, and the timing of this was weird for Mike Pennel, because judging by his social media, it appeared Mike Pennel was at a wedding in Cancun. And while he was in Cancun, he's having this dramatic event with somebody. I don't know. It was not pretty. But Mike Pennel long story short, a very long story short, Mike Pennel is being accused of domestic violence. Mike Pennel did issue a statement on his Instagram. He said, "As a man, I cracked." If you don't know what that means, Google it. Then he continues, "That was all. Was never involved with her beyond that. At the end of the day, I never put my hands on this woman, but I was never in a relationship with her. So this is my last post about this. The courts will handle this going forward." To give you the Cliff Notes version of this, I guess Mike Pennel was getting tagged in posts by this woman who he had some sort of association with, whether it was a fling or a relationship, I don't know. But apparently, and by the way, her name is Johnny Blaze. She has 700,000 followers on Instagram. So, I don't know what she does. I don't know if she's a model, an actress. I've never heard of her. But she has a lot of followers. I noticed she was following me, which is interesting. But she, I guess, has been tagging Mike Pennel in a lot of posts. Mike Pennel revealed that he has a restraining order against her. She is very stern on the fact that she was abused by Mike Pennel. This is her claim, by the way. I want to be clear on that. Mike Pennel has been denying all of this. And there are all kinds of screenshots of conversations being posted. I mean, you have people's phone numbers who are currently out there. And Johnny Blaze, who came after me on Twitter, basically saying I needed to get the right side of the story, which all I'm doing is sharing what Mike Pennel shared. That's all I did. She has been posting on her social media. I guess people are harassing her, calling her phone, even showing up to her home. She posted an image of her security camera. People are showing up to her front door. This got really, I mean, this is like an episode of that reality TV show that has all kinds of trashy drama. She does OnlyFans. Okay, I ain't hating, I ain't judging. There's a market for that these days. Regardless who she is, she had some sort of an association with Mike Pennel, and it's led to something very ugly. I want to be very clear. We do not know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Pennel has stood his ground. She has stood her ground. They both claim to have evidence, kind of like Rashee Rice and his ex. I guess Rashee Rice's grandmother was claiming that, both sides have evidence. I guess from a football standpoint, the good news is Mike Pennel is not under contract. And the other, listen, I want Mike Pennel back, even with his age, because I think he does some good for Kansas City. But given that he's 34 years old, will turn 35 in May, and now that he's in this drama, possibly a court matter, I think this might need to be a time where you decide not to re-sign Mike Pennel. Because and by the way, in the screenshots of the text messages where phone numbers are leaked, there's also an alleged death threat in there. I don't know from who. It's a little confusing with the amount of screenshots, but Mike Pennel did claim in one of those text messages, he was claiming that this woman was going to ruin his career. And listen, I said this on social media over the weekend because the topic came up like, oh, another instance with a player. Listen, man, you got to, whether you're an NFL player or not, you got to surround yourself with the right people. Look at Brian Ortega of the UFC, who was a 2-time title challenger at featherweight. That dude shared a story about how he was hanging out with the wrong crowd, a really bad crowd. He cut ties with all those people, has not been in trouble since. Kareem Hunt, that dude definitely looked like he was hanging out with the wrong crowd. Now, I don't know specifically what Kareem Hunt did after that. Did he cut ties with those people? Because he got into several off-the-field instances, according to some reports out there. But ever since the week of Super Bowl 54, where he got pulled over for weed, Dude, have you heard anything negative about Kareem Hunt? No, he figured it out. He realized that he's never going to get a big-time contract, especially at his position, because he got in trouble. But at least he could still make some money playing in the NFL if he does the right thing, which was never too late for him, and Kareem Hunt's done that. How many times have you heard of Kareem Hunt getting into trouble since the week of Super Bowl 54? None. Zero. So you can figure it out. Now, for Mike Pennel at age 34, might be a little late there, but Pennell's had a full career, so it's not the worst thing in the world for him. Could there be a situation where Pennel is cleared of any wrongdoing and the Chiefs bring him back mid-season? They've done it 3 times before. Who's to say they won't do it a 4th time? Possibly. Pennel told me, and I played the interview of this a while back, Pennel told me he wants to come back in Kansas City. So, if Pennel is cleared of any wrongdoing, maybe he can come back mid-season for the Chiefs, like he has a couple of times in the past. But man, dude, these NFL players need to start associating themselves with the right people. Because I think what tends to happen, like Rashee Rice racing on the highway and going to a club with his buddies and something allegedly happened. Dude, you're clearly not hanging out with the right crowd. And I know, you know, it's never easy cutting ties with people you've known for years, but it could get in the way of you getting millions and millions of dollars in your future for a football career. Playing a kid's game, by the way. So, listen, it's unfortunate, but there's a possibility that Mike Pennel may have also played his last game with the Chiefs, given the off-the-field situation he's in right now. It's sad, but that does happen sometimes. Robert says a pedo slap ain't enough for these IG chicks nowadays. They want to get paid by any means necessary. Maybe you're right, and maybe something did happen. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of people say that, you know, with Mike Pennell's size, you know, she would have definitely been hurt. Look, I've always been innocent until proven guilty kind of guy. I remember, listen, I was one of those people who jumped to conclusions with the Tyreek Hill thing. It looked like Tyreek Hill was totally in the wrong. But we learned the story that was originally portrayed was not even close to what it really was when we got the full story and all the context. So that stuff matters. Absolutely matters. That's why I'm not going to make any judgment on Rashee Rice, nor will the Chiefs, until there's concrete evidence. Because the ex-girlfriend of Rashee Rice, yeah, she posted a bruised face, a bruised leg, a holes on the wall, a destroyed closet, a destroyed dresser. Dude, we don't have any actual concrete evidence that he did it. Because I'm getting these tweets. Oh, you don't believe in that domestic violence. No, I believe that domestic violence happens in our world. It absolutely does. But there have also been people who have been falsely accused of these kinds of things. So I don't want to be in a position where I just believe someone and it turns out that this wasn't even close to being true. That's all. The fact that we even have to explain innocent until proven guilty is pretty silly, but it's unfortunate this happens. Blake says if we're going to re-sign, okay, I have a pet peeve. You use resign. I'm giving you a hard time, but if we're going to re-sign Thornton, will happen by Sunday night because legal tampering period begins 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Let's be completely honest. This legal tampering period, I don't think is enforced as well as it used to be. Agents and teams, they're interacting at the combine. A lot of these contracts that you're going to hear about as early as Sunday, like Blake mentioned, dude, these were agreed upon verbally at the combine. I mean, a lot of these deals happened early and people wondered, well, why are these deals getting agreed on so early? Because they talked at the combine. Dude, the combine is no longer, you know, the destination for incoming rookies and scouting them and all of that, interviewing them. No, dude, it's also a hot spot for agents and teams to negotiate. It really is. I just don't understand why she won't just put him on child support. I don't know about that. That seems like it's out of our It's certainly not our business. Mary says, just a question. Could it be possible that Rice X had her boyfriend beat her just to blame Rice? Listen, I'm not here to accuse people of falsely accusing others or any of that. I'll just wait for any of the facts to come out. Yeah, I remember the Chiefs with the Macklin thing, and that one was weird because I don't think there was ever concrete evidence on that one. Was there? I don't think there was. I don't believe there was. Yeah, see, Blake has a very valid point here. Matt Ariza was a victim of a false accusation, and it cost him his rookie season with the Bills. Yeah, absolutely did. And look, I don't blame the Bills for what they did. I think in our society today, I feel like domestic violence and sexual assault as well, I mean, it is being taken far more seriously now than it's been in the past. And the Bills, like, that's a bad PR situation. You like, how do you justify keeping a rookie punter as great as he is with the cannon of a leg and all? So, again, that's why I've always been innocent until proven guilty. People can get accused of anything these days, but you got to have evidence to prove that they're guilty. So we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. That'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. Before I sign off, a quick reminder, the first ever Chiefs Zone Live will take place at Planet Comic-Con, Kansas City, Sunday, March 29th, 2:30 p.m. This will be at the Kansas City Convention Center. I will say this, because I want you guys to be there on time for the live show. Get there a little early. Parking that area of downtown can be chaos, especially for that event. It is pretty jam-packed. Saturday is going to be the big one. Friday and Sunday will still be busy. But I am very excited that we are going to have the first ever Chiefs Zone Live at Planet Comic-Con. A huge shout out to the people at Planet Comic-Con. If you want to purchase tickets, go to planetcomiccon.com and you'll see the yellow box to buy your tickets. Get your tickets right there. Joining me for the first ever Chiefs Zone Live will be Chiefs Hall of Famers, Duron Cherry and Neil Smith. Very excited. I can't thank those two enough for trusting me and being part of the first ever Chiefs Zone Live. In fact, that Sunday, and it's going to be Sunday only because Planet Comic-Con is a 3-day event. Before the live show and after the live show, you will have an opportunity to meet both Duron Cherry and Neil Smith. They'll have a table along with several other celebrities over at Planet Comic-Con KC. So if you guys haven't already, get your tickets, planetcomiccon.com. You do not need a separate ticket for the live show. Your ticket for Planet Comic-Con grants you entry to the showroom floor, celebrity row, as well as the panels and our live show on Sunday, the 29th. That is at 2:30 Central Time. I really appreciate you guys who have showed a lot of love for this. And for those who are planning on coming out, I'm excited to meet you all. It's going to be a fun day. It really is. So I'm looking forward to that. PlanetComicCon.com. Get your tickets there. That'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. I am Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me. If you guys enjoyed any part of this podcast, please give it a like. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so already. If you missed any part of this show, it will be archived shortly on Facebook, YouTube, X, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can download and listen to a podcast. Once again, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me on this Monday night. I'll be back Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. Take care.